Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Mouthful. Again, my name is Desmond, and today we are going to be talking about racism and discrimination. And I want to share a little bit of my experience being a black gay man. I feel like I get discriminated against, honestly, on both sides. Like black people really don't take to gay people very well because I feel like they fear what they don't know. And of course, from white people I get discriminated against because I'm black. So it's like, where do I fall in the spectrum of being human? Like, when do we take all of that out of, your thought processes and just take people as human?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So has anyone ever dealt with any discrimination or racism?
Nothing personally, to be honest, but I do know at this day and time, I've had to have conversations with my son about how to be careful just because of police brutality with our black men. But like I said, nothing personal, but I've had to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that a little bit further? Because I remember in the movie The Hate You Give, that opening scene where he's sitting his family down and having that conversation. I know I'm Hispanic, and I had never seen anything like, I'd heard of people saying that, but the first thing I did is, my best friend is African American, and I said to him, I said, and he's got mixed kids, so they were mixed with white. I said, did you have this conversation with your kids? And he said, yes, I did. And that just blew my mind that was like a common thing, Did your parents have that conversation with you?
For me personally, I didn't have that conversation, but there are a lot of conversations that I didn't have with my parents.
Period.
And you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
just like, there's some situations in a community where the information that needs to be shared with their kids, it doesn't happen. And I feel like that's where our society fails on both sides, because racism and discrimination is a learned behavior.
Right.
So we're failing to change the dynamic and how we're teaching these kids that are growing up, because until we do, it's going to be a continuing, like, we're programming kids to think this way.
Right. To hate each other.
Yesterday something interesting happened. We were outside getting ready to go, and the alarm went off in the building, and the police came, because that's what they do.
Oh.
And I was outside with Desmond and Jen and Mirka even, and all of a sudden, you guys, I could tell, like, you guys got nervous, and you're like, okay, well, we got to go because they're going to think, da-da-da. And I was like, why? I'm just sitting there like, what's the problem with it? Like, And as I got in my car and I drove away, I was like, how crazy is that, to have that instant reaction when you see the police, not even knowing that they're doing anything. You don't even know, right? But, like, it's your instant defense mechanism of, I better get out of here, because chances are, it's not going to look
about
good.
to pop
They're going
off.
to assume the worst.
Yeah. So
yeah. That's just how society has tuned us to be. We're just going with what we've been getting for 100+ years. Not even just 100+ years, but ever since the police have had power over us, they've shown that type of presence. They've always been militant towards black people, excessive towards black people. And as a black man, I did get the talk from my father. My dad definitely gave me that talk when I first learned how to drive. We sat in the car, and we had went through scenarios, and it might be unheard of to a lot of families, but we sat in the car and we had scenarios of, what would you do if the cop came this way, or what would you do if the cop said this? This is what you're supposed to do when you're stopped by the police. And my first encounter with the police on a one-on-one level was when I was 15. I got pulled over by a sheriff for running a stop sign. And luckily he wasn't a good old boy cop, and he basically was just doing his job, but it wasn't always gonna be that way, you know what I mean? So a lot of people aren't so lucky. Some people get stopped by the police and then they don't leave with their life.
Right.
And there are people who are faces of police brutality, and the faces are normally the people who don't make it to tell their side of the story. And that's something that you have to think about when you assess a situation like this, that a lot of the faces that we put on shirts, the faces that we hashtag and repost and things like that on social media are of black people that can't tell their side of the story because they didn't live to tell it.
Right.
And these are at the hands of police. But my thing is, you know, when I think about moving forward and what we could do to alleviate some of the things that we go through as a society, I also want to challenge my people to not give them a reason. And I'm not saying that everything is our fault, because a lot of the things that we do are not our fault. But some of the situations we get in, we have a hand in at
We
times.
put ourselves there.
Right. So I'm not saying that they aren't at fault at what they do, but I can't personally speak for myself and say that a cop has brutally beaten me. I can't say that I've ever been in a position where a cop has, you know, really flexed his muscle on me or anything like that, because I do have respect for what they do. But at the same time, I know other people that have that same respect, and they have a different story to tell.
Yes.
Right.
So, you know, when I use my voice, I speak for them. I can't speak for myself because I didn't have that personal experience. But I know people who have definitely had run-ins with the law, who may have just had a traffic stop or were discriminated against. And, you know, they don't have such a positive story to tell.
Yeah, and I think like what you were kind of hitting on earlier is that we do need to come together as a community on both sides. We have to first start with us,
Right.
Because we are in a position
Control
where
we can control, for
yeah,
sure.
we can control our narrative, and we're too busy focused on what the next person is doing.
Right.
Like we see each other sitting on this platform. It's somebody that's going to watch this video, and they're literally going to hate on us.
Right.
And they will
Wow.
intentionally not share a video because they want to be in this position, instead of reaching out and saying, hey, I like what y'all are doing. I would love to do something like that. How did y'all
How do
get
you do
started?
it?
You know what I mean?
Right.
And we need to come out of that. We do not want to see each other succeed.
Right.
And it's so sad that we can't come together in a way where we can build each other up. And because we are like that, it only allows the outside to continue to tear us down, because we're already doing it ourselves.
Right.
You
So
know
why
what I
do
mean?
you feel, or I mean, I think we as a whole kind of feel the same way. Why do y'all feel that we don't want each other to succeed?
I think it's more so that, you know, we look at each other as competition because we don't want the one up on each other. You know, we don't want our own doing better than us. We want to all be on the same level. And I feel like a lot of us feel that if someone's doing better than us, then they're a threat or that they're competition. And that's not how it has to be. Because if we change the narrative in our thinking, we definitely could help one another and take ourselves to the top. You know, we don't have to rely on anybody else to do it for us.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest reason why we're such in a stagnant society, is because our people are constantly fighting one another, not just in, you know, success, but I mean, killing one another, and you're not even really thinking that you're killing somebody that looks just like you. And I think one of the lessons that my grandmother used to tell me is be slow to anger. And she used to preach that to me because she noticed how quick I was to be angry. And a lot of the killings that have happened in Dallas have been because the first reaction is, okay, I'm pissed off, I'm about to go get a gun.
Yes.
I don't want to talk it out.
I've had
I got a
to-
gun. I got a gun right here on me. I'm about to pull it. I'm about to shoot. And you're not even thinking, what are we arguing about?
Right.
You arguing about some money. You arguing about a woman, or you arguing about a disagreement. But if you really take yourself out of the situation and look at it from a bird's eye view, it ain't even worth. It ain't even worth what you're doing.
Right. And the problem is we've been programmed to think this way.
Right.
Right.
Like we have been put in a position where it's always been dark skin against light skin.
Right.
And you know, this term good hair, you know what it is to have good hair. We've been designed to be divided. And until we recognize that and acknowledge that, it's going to always be that way until we recognize that we need to finally figure out how we can come together, because you are me,
Yes.
I'm you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Why do we have to be in competition? We can build each other up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To put us on a platform where
feels
we
better to
can we
do
can
that.
change it.
Right.
Yes.
And I want to expand on you saying the word program, because I was exposed recently, as you guys were as well, to the Willie Lynch letter, which if you haven't heard of the Willie Lynch letter, which a lot of people have not, I really encourage you to take the time to read it. It's long, but it is a very informative letter, which for me really made sense and filled in a lot of gaps of things that I questioned about why things are the way they are. But it just speaks to the power of programming, of words. And if you reinforce those words over and over and over and over again, and that generation tells the next generation the story and makes them believe something, it just continues and continues until you have an entire generation, an entire race of people who believe in their nothingness that they were told about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is so sad to me. That is, it's incredibly sad, but at the same time, it shows that you can also change the narrative.
Absolutely.
But it's going to take a village. That letter was written by one man who was a slave owner, I think, in the West, and he got called in by some other slave owners in the South who were like, hey, you're doing this really good. Can you teach us how to do it?
Right.
And that's exactly what he did. He literally wrote an instruction manual on how to make a slave.
How to make a slave.
One of the biggest things in that letter that stood out to me was a line that said, keep the body and take the mind. And the first thing I thought about was, when you think of African American males, you think of rappers and basketball players, football players, sports, right? And I was like, whoa, that's crazy to me. Like, literally, and not that that's a bad thing. I mean, I think certain people's bodies are designed to do things, and that's great. Celebrate it. But it's almost like you grow up thinking those are my choices in life. I can be a ball player or a rapper.
That's it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I think that's society's view on African Americans, because that's definitely not my view.
Right.
And it's not my view because I was introduced to things and other opportunities to show that a black man can achieve anything. But all we want to praise are football players and basketball players, and we put this emphasis on them as if this is our only way out.
Right.
But I thank my parents for putting me in a position and surrounding me with people who did other things besides sports. My church family, I was around doctors. I mean, I lived next door to a family of black people who all went to Harvard. Something that I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
But it was important to introduce those people to me to show me that it can be done.
Yeah.
So I don't really like to hang my hat on the fact that we were made to do something, the stereotype, because that needs to be broken.
Yeah.
And it needs to be broken by us. How we've talked about in other episodes, how we raise our children. My son, whenever I have a son, I'm not going to let him sit in front of the TV and glorify an athlete. I'm going to introduce him I'm going to ask him what he wants to do, and I'm going to try to find somebody who looks like him so he can achieve the same thing, if it's not myself. So I can redirect the narrative, because I'm really kind of tired of seeing, the same thing every time I talk to a high school kid. I ask him, what do you want to do? I want to go play ball.
Yeah.
I want to rap. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like when you get lost
there's other options.
Yeah, there's so many other things
options
for you to do. And only speaking for myself, I feel like a lot of my creativity years have died because I was so engulfed in trying to play football to fulfill an image.
Right.
I was tuned to feel like, okay, you're going to play ball. You're going to go to school, you're going to play ball, and that's what you're going to do. I hear people always saying there is no plan B. No, there's plan A through Z, for real. And I was fine-tuned in society, believe that all I had was football and music.
Yeah.
So I challenge parents out there to really change the narrative because it needs to change.
And that's where it starts.
Yeah.
Because cliche, children are the future, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So until we have to have a starting point to be able to change that narrative, and it starts in the home.
Right.
And until we reach a point, it's kind of contradictory because it's hard to do when this information is being passed down generation to generation to generation. So at what point does a parent say, I'm going to break this cycle? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
How do we start that point when they're only passing down the information that was given
they
to
have
them?
to again, like I said last episode, um, they have to redirect their minds. Just think about what they went through their childhood and say, okay, I don't want this for my child. Let me do something different. So that's what has to be done.
But do you feel like there's like some type of like a hate that comes to you if you try to change that narrative? Like people go, oh, well, are you trying to erase our history? You're trying to pretend like it didn't happen. You know what I mean? Like if you don't continue I don't know what the word is, but if you don't continue, I guess the feeling and pass it down, like you said, you got to break it, right?
Right.
I mean, do you feel like why do you think people don't do it?
Because they're afraid to go against the grain.
That's what I
Mhm.
mean.
They're afraid to go against the
right.
grain, and a lot of people are afraid to be different. And you know, I can't stop, you know, giving my parents credit, but they introduced me to things that other people weren't doing. I'm a Boy Scout. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm proud of that, you know, but I got talked about so bad when I was in school. You're lame, you're this, you're that, because I chose to do Boy Scouts than go to football camp. I did band camp because I was a saxophonist. My dad introduced me to that, but I got called a band nerd. You know what I mean? So it goes deeper than just the narrative.
Yeah.
It happens in school to where kids don't want to be different. They don't want to
Yeah.
dress different. They don't want to be different because they're getting hated on by their own. You know, that self-hate is real.
Yeah.
And it starts with ourselves. And it's scary to really think about that Willie Lynch is still, you know,
Into-
living
today.
through us to this day in 2019. That's a slave manual to teach you how to control a slave, you know, and these slave owners were reinforcing what that letter was telling them to do. And one of the most baffling line, or I can't even quote it, so please don't quote me on it, but one of the lines in there was talking about removing the father from the home.
Yes.
And that was one of the most deepest parts for me, because it's
you.
like, think about that for a second. You remove who's supposed to be the head of your household, and he's going to rely on his mother, and he's going to have woman tendencies.
Yeah.
So he's going to be mentally weak. So that's something that, damn, it just really fucks with me for a minute, because it's just like, that's real. Like they want to strip us from our identity and take it from
In
us.
every way they can. In every single way that they can.
And that really is, it's deeper than you really think. Because for me, it just really hurts me as a black man that this letter has torn so many families apart. It has not really given black men a real opportunity to show what we can do, and we're looked at as, you know, just property. You know what I mean? Sports is nothing but entertainment. So when I see a LeBron James, or I see a Odell Beckham, or I see all these athletes, these are entertainers for high-paying people. You know what I mean? It's just in a different time frame.
Yeah.
It's just no different than gladiators.
Right.
It's no different than Mandingo fighting. It's just modern day slavery to me, you know, and it's still in 2019. Now, I'm not shooting them for making their money, but it's just, look at how many black owners do you see? You see none.
None.
There's not one black owner in any major sport.
Right.
Baseball, football, basketball. They're all white. You know, and the few who have an opportunity to own something, they don't. You know, so it's just like, just really think about that. Let that resonate on your mind for a second, and really think, like, it's 2019 and we still are looked at as entertainment.
Right.
You know, when they look at us, they look at us to fiddle with mics. Just like J. Cole said, it's like, if you look up the value of a black man's life, it's not 1 0 in sight. That's real. Like, if we're not fiddling mics or playing on a football field,
Right.
then we're not really worth anything. So it's just, for me, I really hope that narrative changes so black boys and girls can see that they don't have to be in sports or do entertainment. They can be presidents. They can be politicians. They can be lawyers.
Right.
But the knowledge is out there. You have to go get it.
Yeah.
You know, so.
What about you, Jen? Like, from a black woman's perspective, seeing how Don was reacting, how it affects him as a man.
Okay, can we
Pass
I'm
the
sorry.
tissues. Come on.
Yeah.
Pass them down.
Can we? Yeah. Sorry. Don, do you need tissue? You
Let's
all right?
let it flow, man. It'll be all right.
Okay. What was the question again, Monique?
As a black woman,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're a single mother.
Right.
How does this all affect you, and how do you feel as a black woman, your worth in general?
As far as my worth, it took a long time for me to find it. But you know, I know it now. It took for me to just realize that I deserve something good. I want to be better for myself, for my children. And I'm a single mother. I don't want them to grow up alone. I'm a single black mother, so I'm looked at as the ratchet, the baby mama, and it's not even like that, because the relationships I do have with their fathers, they're steady. And I don't want people to think that every black woman has just a horrible relationship with their child's father. The relationships, they just didn't work. And that happens in every other race, but we're just looked at as we're the problem. We're the problem, you know? But just as far as us black women, we have to find our worth, because we cannot continue to be talked about like we have been in the present and the past. Love yourself, remove the past from how you grew up, and that's just that. You just have to erase a lot of things that were normal for you as a child, because that's where it starts. I mean, as a child, I can't say, just the relationships I saw, there was love there, but it was shown in a different way. And that's how my relationships worked, and I had to change it. I had to change myself. So whoever I date in the future, I'll let your girl.
Okay,
I'm
you
good
better
now.
get you a plug, man. But Monique, for you, I have a question.
Okay.
So, on the outside, well, I won't say outside,
Yeah.
but in a different perspective of not being African American, like, have you ever been in a situation where you've witnessed somebody being discriminated against, or blatant racism or prejudice, or are there any thoughts in your head against black people when you see a certain, or you're in a certain situation?
I don't have any thoughts again, like a skin color. I want to say I try not to use the word "I don't see skin color," because I feel like that's a hurtful statement. Because that's
You
like
see
saying,
it.
that's like
see
saying
it.
I don't see our differences. Of course we're different,
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't like treat people differently based on their skin color. I treat you differently based on how you behave.
Right.
Okay. So that's that. But I have seen people do things that are perceived as being racist. I think it's more ignorance. People making comments that maybe they think is a joke, that isn't funny. I was blessed to grow up in a household. Again, I'm Hispanic. My dad is actually a dark skin color. My mom is light, because my dad's from Puerto Rico, so he's got a lot of everything in him. But I was blessed to be in a family where we didn't talk about that. Like, I wasn't told you better not bring home a black man. I just never heard those things. So it almost makes me kind of blind to the fact sometimes that people still think like that. I know when we have conversations, you guys kind of laugh at me because I say stuff like, why? You know, like, why would, because I seriously don't understand it. I can't even get in the mindset of how somebody can think like that because I just feel like it's so hateful, you know? My daughter has had boyfriends that are African American. I don't care because I just, you know, I want you to bring home somebody who is a good person that treats you good. That's all I care about. Nothing else. So
But it definitely starts in the home.
yeah.
You know,
And I hope my daughter teaches that as well.
Yeah, it starts in the home because I don't think parents really understand that, you know, one, to any age, really. I mean, the younger years are such a vital bricklaying years, seed planting years, trailblazing years. Those are the years that you're supposed to mold the identity of a kid into a young man, into a boy, into a grown person. You know what I mean? So everything that you hear from me is just reinforced of what my parents taught me.
Yeah.
I wasn't born this way. You know, I didn't come out of the womb with wisdom. I didn't come out of the womb with knowledge. I didn't come out of the womb knowing what the world had awaited for me. So I think people really need to take accountability in how they raise their kids and what they expose their children to. One thing I appreciate my parents for exposing me to is being around other people of different races. I knew how to be around white people because I went to school with white people. I knew how to be around Hispanic people because I played soccer with them. I knew how to be around Asian people because they were in Boy Scouts with me. So I knew I had race relations at such a young age because I was exposed to it. You know, that's something that, you know, my parents did for me. So I don't have a racist bone in my body, but I am appreciative of my blackness. And that's something that a lot of people aren't appreciative of. It's an honor to be black. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to be anything else than black.
Yeah.
But I'm proud to be black, 100%. And, you know, black pride is not anti-white, and I try to let my white friends know that because when I speak on black positivity, they think I'm speaking against who they are.
Right.
And that's not what I'm doing. When you open up the newspaper and you turn on the TV, you see unarmed black people getting killed. I've never seen, and I'm just speaking on what I've seen, I haven't seen an unarmed white person get killed yet. Not since I've turned on the TV.
I have seen it.
For me, I'm just speaking for me.
Yeah.
For me, I haven't seen it. Now, have I seen other situations where I was like, damn, like the police are really tripping? And it have been a white person? Yes, I have seen that. But the most narrative that I've seen so far in the past 5 years is unarmed black people being killed by police. You know, and for me to be able to turn on the TV and see a white person go into a church and murder a church full of black people and get stopped and go and has an opportunity to stop and get a damn cheeseburger. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, think about that for a second. Like, I don't think people really focus on that, on the details of that alone. I don't like to dwell, as you may say, but that right there will never sit well with me.
Right.
Let me ask you guys a question because somebody brought this up to me the other day and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Taking it outside of the black-white, you know, dynamic. Somebody said to me, do you ever notice that Jewish people, they have the Jewish Holocaust. They went through a horrible situation with that. Okay. That was a tragedy in itself. And and it's true. You don't hear Jewish people saying like, we need to be owed, not in the way that you hear it, you know, between black and white, right? We need to be owed, you know, reparations. We need this, we need that. And I was like, that's very interesting, you know, that what is it about that? What is it about however the information was passed down that those people, I don't want to say those people, but the Jewish community is not necessarily hung up on it the way it is as a black-white situation.
Look at how much has been done to honor the
They
Holocaust.
got paid.
To honor it. I know get that part, but I'm saying, yeah.
though, but look at that simple aspect of it. How many Holocaust museums do you see all over the country?
I mean,
There's
but I
like
see-
one African American museum in Washington D.C.
But to be fair, you see, you know, Martin Luther King Boulevard in every city of the world.
That
Okay,
ain't
but I'm not
enough.
saying that's not bad. I'm just saying every city in the world, you do have Black History Month. You do have I mean, there are things. You can't say that there's not, right?
Nah.
I'm arguing the other side of it for for the viewers.
Playing devil.
You know?
Okay, well, I'll speak for that aspect of it. Okay, we have a Martin Luther King Boulevard and a Malcolm X Boulevard in every hood.
Yes.
Every hood. I can't go to Plano. I can't go to
True.
I can't go to Saxe
True.
and see no Martin Luther King Boulevard. And they do that because they think that they throwing us a little bone.
Exactly, to shut us
We
up.
just gonna
That's
throw you a little
interesting.
bone like,
Yeah.
That's interesting.
here you go.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Like, that's BS.
So with that in mind, the other thing that they brought up was, I said, why don't, if you have questions about this, why don't you go talk to an African American person about, like we're doing?
Because they don't know how to talk to us.
They don't.
I got that. That's
That's
what I think.
That's why I am definitely trying to change the narrative in the brand that I've started. You know,
I think it's a fear of the
Yeah.
conversation, because you
Exactly.
don't want to hear some
They
of the
don't want to
stuff.
hear it.
Right.
They don't want to agree with it.
Or
And
even
plus
have to defend your position.
The problem is
you
they've
know?
given a narrative we're angry. So why would you want to approach someone that's angry for
And
being
could possibly
black?
go out.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm gonna ask
But my
this
thing is
angry black
understand it.
person about being black. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I could see why someone wouldn't want to.
Right.
But the conversations need to be had.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we just have
That's how it
to.
starts.
Well, even from like a political standpoint, right? Like if we're in a conversation and we're about to vote, and you guys, and let's just take it back to when Obama was running, right? And you guys were like, yeah, Obama. And I'm like, yeah, I voted for the other guy. You know what I mean? Like there was that type of tension sometimes,
Yeah.
like I would notice in groups like that, where it was like, okay, I'm not even going to talk about who I voted for because I'm automatically going
Right.
to be viewed this way, that I'm
Right.
anti-Obama, which, that wasn't the case. I particularly, voted for him. But I noticed that was a difficult conversation. It still is today. It still is today.
Yeah, and it's just a difficult situation to talk about, period, especially when it's been going on for so long and it's still very valid
going.
and very current.
a lot of people are content
and
with it.
a lot of people are so oblivious to the fact that this is what we live every day. You know what I mean? So having conversations, when we do have conversations and you're kind of lost on what we're talking about, like the police situation yesterday, it was very real.
For you. And I was just
Yes.
like,
You
what's
were
going
like,
on?
what's
Very,
going
very
on?
real.
For brown
And-
people too. Like, I mean, for my brown brothers and sisters too, they fight a fight similar to ours. It's not the same, but I'm not gonna sit up here and say that they don't fight, because they have a whole president trying to erase who they are.
Yes.
Get them up out of here. You know what I'm saying? So I know some families that have been broken apart because Trump wants to all of a sudden, get Hispanics or illegal aliens out of our
here.
country. You know what I mean? So when I fight for my people, I also fight for my brown people too, because I
But
got
see,
love
I
for them
am
too.
of the brown community on both sides. Okay, I'm not a half. I'm a full Latino, and I agree with him on the I don't want illegal aliens. So see, that's the other thing, is people think because I'm Hispanic,
Yeah.
that I am automatically on that side, and I'm like, no, I
And
really
you
I
have
have
that
a
right.
problem with it. I'm
You-
a taxpayer.
You
like I
have
don't
that
wanna-
right.
Yeah.
You have that right.
Yeah.
And like, just like I respect all people. Even if your views don't line up with mine, I definitely respect all aspects of life. White, black, Chinese,
Yeah.
Hispanic, it doesn't matter who you are. I'm gonna respect you until you
Yeah.
cross that line.
Yeah, but there's definitely some races that are quiet. Like the Asians.
Asians are,
You
yeah.
don't hear nothing from them. They
I
stick
mean,
to
'cause
No,
their-
they stick to what they
they
do.
they stick together,
And
and I
they
wish.
do.
they are very, 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 very
Tight-knit.
unified. You know what I mean? And that's something that we lack as a
I
people.
mean, we used to be, and I don't think that I don't think that it's impossible for us to be unified like that again. I
Not
don't
at
think
all.
that we can't be unified like that. I think that once we create love within ourselves again, and really stop looking for other people to love us and feel sorry for us, we don't need reparations. We ain't getting them, so we might as well hang our hat on that. I feel like it's time to come together. And that doesn't mean come together and start fighting other races. That's
Right.
not what that means. Because
Yeah.
every time, what I'm saying, like, I speak on stuff like that,
Yeah.
white people automatically think, oh, well, then you must hate us and you want to go against us. That's not what that means. You know what I mean?
I want to bring up something that happened personally to me and my husband. He was actually holding Jen's daughter, Parker. We had gone out on an outing, and he had taken Parker to go play on video games. and he had Parker on his shoulder. And after we left the event, my husband said to me, man, I was getting some crazy looks from like other black women. Like, what's this little black girl doing on this white guy's shoulder?
Whew.
And I was just like, really?
Yes.
Because I was walking Parker around and nobody looked at me crazy, or at least I didn't notice it.
Right.
But I thought that was interesting. Like,
I used to get
you guys
stares
feel
like
a
that.
certain
I used to
way?
get stares like that all the time. My stepdad was white, and he would. I mean, I was comfortable with him, and we would go to the store and everywhere, and people would just look at me like, I mean, give me dirty looks, give him dirty looks, and it's just like, what year, how old was I at 8 years old? I mean, what year was it when I was 8?
It doesn't
19.
Third grade?
Yeah, it was like third grade,
something
you
like
know,
that.
and just think about, you know, how people look at, like, what is this?
Were you noticing the looks, or
Yeah.
you're looking back on it now?
Absolutely. I was embarrassed. Yes, I mean, you go out, you think of yourself as a little girl with a man of a different race, and you're going out and you're seeing people, they're looking at you. Sometimes I would cover my face. I mean, it was embarrassing. I mean, I'm a little girl and I'm getting dirty looks as well as him.
Wow.
So, I mean, why? Why
And
is
it's
it?
sad. It really
It's
is
sad.
sad.
Like, why is it not okay for this man to be with this little girl? I
Right.
don't get it.
Yeah, because it could be any situation where, you know, maybe you didn't have a parent and you were adopted.
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
and-
Like, why are we judging
I'm
the
not
fact
saying-
that the parent
you
and
know-
the child are two different races? They love each other. They're not. You don't see them in any harm or danger.
So what's
why
the
are we
problem?
prejudging this
Yeah,
situation?
but obviously it
problem?
triggers something. You
It
know?
does. It absolutely
It triggers
does.
what
And
we've
I
been fine-tuned to think
Yeah.
our whole lives. It's just
kind
to
of like with
be-
interracial dating.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interracial dating and people who adopt children of different races.
Yeah.
Because I'm guilty. I've seen a darker child with a lighter man or a white man, and I automatically was like, "What's going on? Like, what's this?" And I'm guilty, and I have to take a step back and not contribute to the problem. And that's accountability.
Right.
So for me, as a human being, I have to be accountable of my prejudiceness. I have to be accountable of my blatant racism, because that's nothing short of what it is. But I don't know too many people who can do what I just did, which is admit that I have been racist in a moment.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not
I
a
definitely
racist.
have.
I've had a
Yeah.
racist moment where I looked at a situation
Everybody
like,
has, I'm
I think
Sure.
everybody
Everybody
has, but you
has,
said
yeah.
they won't admit
they
it.
won't admit
Yeah.
it because, you know, just like all the white people I talk to, they're like, well, I don't see color. I don't
Yeah,
I don't
you do.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't see color. I just see human being. And it's just like, all right, well, whatever. I mean,
I
if
feel
you
like
don't see
there's-
color, cool.
Right. There are so many missed opportunities because I recall you sharing a story with us where you were on the elevator with the little girl.
Oh yeah, in my
we
building.
have to take the
Yes.
opportunities that we see
Right.
to change the narrative. Because for me, honestly, I would have had a conversation on that elevator. Because at that point, she had nowhere to go. She was forced to have that
Wait,
conversation.
what was the situation again? Remind me.
He was on the elevator. If you want to share it with
Yeah,
us.
I was on the elevator in my building, and this woman was with her little daughter, and they were both white. It's just them and I on the elevator, and the little white girl had hid behind her mom's leg, and basically, you know, it could have been any situation. It could have been, you know, she was just afraid of people, but more so, you know, when she gave me this look, like it was a dirty look, like I'm unsure. You know, I've been in situations where I've been in elevators where a white woman has clenched her purse. I've been in situations where, you know, this couple was in the car talking with their windows down, and they saw me coming and they locked their doors and rolled their windows up. You know what I'm saying? So those little things right there used to get to me, but it's all about, like we said, it starts in the home. You know, when you're not having those conversations, and it goes even deeper to, you know, our police system. If we're not having those type of ethics taught at home and taught within our workplace, not just in the workplace, not just at home, but everywhere. It's ethics. That's all it is. If you don't have any type of ethics with other people, then you're going to be fine-tuned to hate what you don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, so I can't really see it making a change unless, you know, people have those values and really take the time to teach ethics and really teach people how to get along with each other. Because there are people, officers, and this is my opportunity to talk about that, there are cops that get jobs that don't know how to talk to black people. So they get behind the badge and they get in a position of power, and they don't know how to simply have a conversation and de-escalate. You know, my thing is with the whole police thing is this is an easy fix to me. You put these cops in these uniforms and you give them guns and you don't even test their minds. You're not even asking them the right questions to even see if they're even compatible to patrol the beats that you assign them to. You know, because a lot of the cops I know who are white, they're officers in the hood. You know, so it looks like modern day, you know, overseer type things. It's like a slave and an overseer situation, because it's like, I'm gonna keep you in line.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. So every time I go to South Dallas or West Dallas and I see them riding through, it looks like modern day.
Yeah, just looking
know,
to see if
just
they're
looking to
doing
see,
wrong,
looking to
or-
see who I can whoop up on. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It looks like they're out for, you know, out for blood. That's what it looked
That's
like.
so
to me.
interesting, your perspective versus when I see it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
What
we're
do you
looking at
see?
What do you
I don't
see?
even think about it. It's like yesterday with the police. They rolled up and I was like, well, we're not doing anything.
Right.
You see what I'm
Correct.
saying?
And it
Like,
took
I
that
was
moment
chill.
for
Like,
you.
I was
That's
ready to
right.
still be talking, and you all
Right.
scattered
I was like,
away.
wait a minute, let's go.
So fast.
Because we don't know if we're gonna leave with our lives.
Right.
And that's real. You know,
Yeah.
it's a root. You could be having a routine flat tire and be shot
Bam.
up.
Bam.
That's real. That's not even a joke. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So,
And it just
Would it have
takes
been
us.
different if the cop that got out of the car would have been black? Would you have felt any different about it?
Nope.
absolutely
I
not.
honestly
No.
would not.
I
Have.
mean,
and that's the problem. It's like when we
You don't
are
even
putting,
trust.
I
Our
honestly
own.
don't, because when we are put in positions of power, we start to get the big head. You know what I mean? So
we need to
now
prove
I'm
ourselves.
I'm walking up to this black man. I have to prove myself, and I have
yes.
control of him because I have a badge and a gun.
Right.
But we have to be able to figure out a way to change all of this narrative. Like, we know the problem, we know it's there, but excuse me, what conversations are we having again to change this? And we have to figure out where or when, and to take those opportunities like you had with the little girl on the elevator, and like that moment you had yesterday when the police pulled up to us because the alarm was going off and he saw
Yeah.
black people are standing outside the building.
Just
what I
have
mean? That
conversations.
just triggers us to get out of harm's way the best way that we can, because
Right.
we didn't know who was about to pull up in this police
Yeah.
car.
But I can't guarantee, but I will bet that the guy didn't see black. Well, maybe he did, but maybe he didn't go, oh, there's black people standing outside the building. Something fishy is going on. He's probably like, the alarm went off. I'm here to check on it. That's my job.
That-
He very may
yesterday,
have, you know,
he
well
did.
been
Yeah,
here.
no, but
He
I'm
did,
saying,
but it
but-
could have been a totally different
It could have been a
Situation.
totally different
different
situation.
attitude.
because the two people that were there that were not black
Yeah.
were not visible.
Yeah.
We were literally standing on the sidewalk in a huddle in front of a building
Yes.
that the alarm was going off.
That
Yeah.
could have been burglarized in
You
the
know what I
eyes of the
mean?
police.
And it was not one car but two
Yeah.
that circled multiple times.
Did.
Right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's just like that type of thinking is what we've been programmed to think. And we have to figure out how to change that, and it starts with us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It starts with conversations like this and these platforms.
Everybody,
And-
every race.
And I
Let's
challenge
just-
everybody
let's-
to take every opportunity you can to have conversations
talk
with
to
people,
somebody.
whether it's with your own race or a different race. It simply requires conversation.
You know what makes me angry though? Because I'm like desperate for this to get better. I know you guys are. I hear so many people talking and saying that exactly. We need to, it all takes us coming together. But I really don't see anybody really doing anything. Like, I feel like we're doing something right here, right now, talking about it. Or, you have people that go out and educate on it, which is great. But the same people that I see complaining about it are also perpetuating the problem sometimes.
Yeah.
And that, like, from a person who's not directly involved in it, it makes me just want to be like, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about this anymore because what is the point?
Right.
You know, like I'm wasting my breath. I'm just going to worry about me. I'm just
Right.
going to do me.
We have to change our mindset to, instead of focusing on the problem, focus on the solution.
Right.
And again, that starts with conversations such as this. And we have to be able to reach people in a way. In 2019, the best way to do it is like this. So we have to continue to support each other so we can continue to get these platforms out, because there are plenty of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And we have to unify within each other so we can continue to support and grow and get those conversations out there.
Right.
And with that being said, we definitely appreciate you guys for tuning in today. Tune in next week for our next show, and follow us on Facebook, Mouthful, and Instagram, Mouthful_TV. See you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Mouthful. Please stay tuned. I would like to present to you Black Caesar.
Chairman Fred Hampton once said, "You can kill the revolutionary, but you cannot kill the revolution." This masquerade of mediocrity shall not last long. I see clear through the layers of falsely projected joys you wear so justly. Past pitfalls paint pain-penetrated pendulums. Pulsating prudent poisons, planting plagues, purposely proving people pose, peeving passions, take off this mask. For I've never seen partisan storms with such abundance, or dreadful loneliness in a room full of love. Your obscure truth lies beneath vague surfaces, breaking ground on new territories, seeking to renovate the preconceived notions we don't deserve opportunity for meager restitution. Society would much rather paint standardized masks while pushing mass incarceration, simultaneously preparing our minds for this lifelong institution. I ask simply that you remove this disguise. The plain game of mystery taking place leaves me wandering wondrously through broad gates of subjugated sins. There's no need to shy from celestial facts. Understand they want us to conceal solidarity and intention. I said, keep on your mask, nigga. Because without it, you are considered armed and dangerous. But we must leave no road untraveled in this mission, and remember, labels are not necessary to see success come to fruition. Unwavering conviction must be harnessed and aimed directly at the oppressors who leave the impression anything that's not Gentile must be rejected, my brothers and sisters. This mask so cruelly forced upon us is a symbol of their systematic oppression. That is raises an awfully puzzling question. Are you woke or waiting for your fate to be selected? Take off your mask.